And so for right now, to be flexible, the schedule is Tuesday at 10:30. That can get adjusted. There's no rhyme or reason to that. It's more so, I know, a lot of folks are already doing the 9 and the 10. So we said, why not tack on a 10:30? But if this doesn't work for most folks, just let me know. Shoot me an email, and I can coordinate with the gang to get a more focused schedule. But so for the next portion here, Dan, if it's okay, I was going to go ahead and review the stay-at-home order with the group. Let me see if I can go ahead and share the screen. Let's see here.
I'm doing this home, so I have it on my computer.
So can everyone see that on the screen there?
There it is.
Yes.
All right, a little bit of a lag. So this is the stay-at-home order. This is what everyone refers to when they're talking about the stay-at-home order. What we're looking at is a 3-tier government response. So the federal government has provided guidelines through the CDC. That's mostly your separation, your 6 feet of separation, and it also has a phasing plan that they've laid out for states moving forward. The states have taken a more aggressive approach, as probably everyone knows, and in Massachusetts they laid out this stay-at-home order. The crux of the matter is on page 2, now therefore, and section 1 discusses maintaining operation to essential services. So this is the list of, and through Exhibit A, which is we'll get to in a moment, this is the list of essential businesses that can remain open. And I think for the most part, and others might see out there, maybe not so much, but for the most part, if you've been deemed essential services or you think you've been deemed essential services, you have remained open. So those essential services are the list that the state has said they can remain open. One of the examples that I use often is construction. The state has said that construction can stay open. It's essential service. In Bellingham, we agreed with that as long as they can maintain their social distancing. We thought it was an important aspect of our local economy to keep it going. So therefore, we've allowed for construction to continue. I got a number of concerns early on from folks because they saw that Boston did not continue with their construction. That is it's a wholly different environment. They're working in much closer corners. That's an example of, from the state level, they've provided us with the essential services, and now it's the determination of the municipality whether or not they allow for that to continue. It's important to note that the municipality can differ from the state, but it can't be less restrictive than the state. So there's the list of essential services, but then there are a growing list of expressly prohibited businesses. And those are businesses that the municipality cannot step above. So if they're expressly prohibited, then we unfortunately are not able to make a local determination that they are allowed to open at this time. But there is, and I'm sure we'll get into this much more when it talks to how we can assist the business community, but there is a list that is not expressly defined as essential and a list that is not expressly defined as prohibited, that there might be opportunities there to assist businesses in getting up and running with a proper strategic plan on how they're going to do that safely. But we'll get more to that shortly here. So this is the stay-at-home order. And so that is in effect technically till May 4th. I sent you a few links regarding what that trajectory looks like. The governor will come out any day now and expressly state something more on this. I'm expecting, based on all the literature that's out there and the language from the governor and others, that it's probably going to be expanded for a few more weeks at minimum. But I think this committee, there's an opportunity there to show that there's a light at the end of the tunnel by doing, proper planning and getting the word out there that, we're here to help businesses and try and figure out ways we can assist. Let me see here if there's any other items. Yeah, so let's see. While we have the stay-at-home order, we also have operation. In your links from the email, there was a list of guidance regarding operation for essential services. So this is something that we can utilize moving forward in terms of assisting businesses on how to open up safely. This can be our guide, and hopefully, this can get built upon through this committee's knowledge and through the business community and how they anticipate meeting these these requirements. The state has identified, and I believe Karen has done a good job of getting this out on our website. This is the essential services FAQs. So this is essentially, where it starts to fill in the gaps, where it's not essential, but they start discussing more so of any ongoing question that businesses may have. So if businesses have these types of questions, you can always point them in that direction to get some more insight on it. But also the governing body is the Board of Health, so they can also assist on that. And then also our list here is the essential services. So this is the crux of definitively allowed to be open. And I think it began as something that was black and white and then got a little muddy over time, where they, delivery services are allowed, but, businesses that don't specialize in delivery aren't allowed. So, that's something I think we'll be working in between those lines coming up here. So with that, that's kind of a broad brush overview. I hope I didn't give you too much just yet. But I was hoping that Bruce Wilson could provide us with a brief update on Board of Health actions.
There you go. Hello. The most recent action that the board took was a mask facial covering order. That's to generate anybody that's going out into the public to wear a mask when they're shopping or if they're out in public. Also, it was for employees that are dealing with or having contact with the public, so that everybody's protected. The person shopping is protected from the person at the register, or the person at the register is protected from the person shopping, so that we're not spreading it around, especially in the supermarkets where it's very difficult to maintain the safe social distancing. That's pretty much it. I'm not sure how much more to expand on it, but I mean, that's the general basics of it. I don't know if Trish wants to maybe add in something on that, or.
I mean, really, that's all that we've done so far to help protect the public. It only started yesterday. We only had one complaint of someone not wearing a mask. So that wasn't too bad. Everyone else seems to be following the guideline.
So Trish and Bruce, in the order and in the further guidance that we've received, there is for businesses who want to open up, there is an email that they could submit to the state to say, this is what we're looking to do. Are we eligible? But it also states that it can submit to the Board of Health. And I know you received an inquiry from an individual who want to do PPE masks, but that's just one example. Has there been any businesses that have reached out directly to you guys to, request the ability to be open?
Not yet. There was the link on the essential services page that the board had directed people. They did have that question. We told them fill out and send it into the state, and that we had, I think, maybe a couple responses to. But other than that, we had been directing them to reach out to the connection on the link that was sending it up to Baker's, Governor Baker's group there. If that's something that Baker releases and can come to us, obviously, as the board or as your team, we'd welcome to be able to look at, how they can function or work and provide a level of safety that we're all comfortable with.
Okay, excellent. And
Trish,
Dan,
I don't know, do you want to add anything to that, Trish? Or?
I mean, if the state denies it, they can't come to us. I mean, they can come to us, but we can't override what the state says because our laws can only be stronger than the state, not weaker.
Right, thank you. I should have mentioned that, but thank you, Trish.
right, exactly right. And so Dan, I think that's kind of the avenue in which I think one of the avenues that we're looking to do in the rather somewhat near term when it's it's a safe and appropriate time, but those that aren't expressly prohibited and those that aren't listed as essential to discuss with the Board of Health and the selectmen and this advisory group on strategic ways they might be able to open, as time progresses, obviously once we get over that curve.
Right, Jim, and I think the letter from the Attorney General, the guidance on local authority and COVID-19 kind of opened up a little more verification that the town does have a little bit more say over than necessarily what the state is saying. Maybe not stricter, but for undefined cases. Obviously, I don't know if you put this letter out or not, but I know we talked about it, section 7 and 8. When the governor first established the essential services order on March 23rd, he stated that enforcement would be handled primarily at a local level. Therefore, mayors, city managers, and town administrators have the authority to make the enforcement decisions necessary to carry out this order in their respective municipality. That's kind of a broad brush. And the section 8 was, the question was, can a municipal order be overturned by the governor? And it said, possibly, however, this should not deter a municipality from enacting an advisory or an order in the absence of gubernatorial action. Municipalities may have different needs than what may be necessary statewide, and municipal leaders are much more well-positioned to know their specific municipality's needs. So that kind of opened my eyes to, if it's really not identified, then we should be the bottom line, and we should be the final enforcement authority on it. So that's kind of where I was thinking by establishing this committee and possibly looking at businesses that aren't operating right now because they weren't specifically deemed essential, but there are other businesses that are doing the same thing they could be doing that are deemed essential. For example, Amazon, deemed essential, but Amazon can deliver flowers, but our local florist, not deemed essential. They could take the same precautions, the same actions that Amazon is doing, but they could do it on a local level. And guess what? Amazon doesn't need that extra flower delivery. The local florist does to stay alive here. So that was my point, my direction in this, and just want to kind of share that with the group.
Excellent. Okay.
So I agree. I mean, the smaller businesses definitely need it more than Amazon. I think the reason why they made Amazon essential is because they also sell food. And medical supplies, and they have a wide list of essentials that they sell. And with people not being able to leave and go out, especially people that have health issues, it's better for them to stay home. So it allows them to still get supplies without leaving. So I do agree with that. If we can give local businesses, obviously we want to before Amazon.
And that's what we're facing. We're seeing a lot of local business saying, why are they allowed to do it, but we can't? So, and I think Bill was trying to talk there, but he was muted.
Oh.
Can we get a copy of that document from the governor, from the?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I can.
That would be great.
You have it, Jim?
Yep. Yeah, I have that.
All right. And again, I think the whole thing is there's a lot of gray area when it comes to the governor's order. And I think it's intentionally gray. So municipalities can kind of work with what they think is best, as opposed from state or federal guidelines.
Have we had town council look at that and have her direct us and what she feels about that too?
Yes, she's had a chance to look at the Attorney General's, and she agreed with the AG's responses for the most part. Again, as I think as Dan was mentioning, it's the governor's order. You know, it specifically has a list, and then there is some gray area there. So that's one of the ways in which I think at the last item about the real intent here of the committee is how we can assist the community. I don't think we need to go out and pick and choose, but give the business community an opportunity to reach out to us and say, this might be an opportunity for me. I'm not expressly prohibited here. Is there a way, in the, as time goes on and the curve goes down, is there a way for me to operate safely? And how can I do that? And I think that would be something we could do as a group, putting out, establishing an email address, putting out the word through, all of our channels, in order to get these businesses to start being more knowledgeable, if they're not already, about safe operating procedures and how they could do it, come the summertime, perhaps.
Jim,
You froze for a moment, Bill.
I think what we need to do is develop either an action plan that these businesses need to provide to us or a questionnaire on what they're doing. I think we need to be consistent across the board and have these people back in line down the road. I don't think it should be, I hate to use the term willy-nilly, but we need to be very consistent. This is a huge discussion we're going to have. It has big ramifications in town. We don't want to open up someone too soon and have someone exposed for the sake of opening up a small business.
Yeah, I think the vision was that we come up with a list of criteria, that document that Jim referred to in the beginning of our meeting, that it's already outlined for the most part, right? As far as social distancing and how you take your sales, and then create an opportunity for businesses almost to apply, Bill, is I think.
I agree, like a template, yeah.
Something, yeah, and then they
They should apply to us.
Right, they apply to us, and then we as a committee make the recommendation to the Board of Health, who we think should be able to open, right?
Does Jim have something like
Well,
that?
one of the documents, the first document that what Jim had talked about was the criteria for how essential businesses are going to conduct business. And so it shows the social distancing and all that.
So we pretty much have a
We
template.
have that template, but even have some of the businesses that aren't operating. And I know it's our favorite business, but the pet groomer, right? They have a plan where they were operating. Here's what they were doing. They were maintaining social distancing. They were only doing curbside drop off and pickup. They had no interaction with their customers. They were only taking online or phone payments. And they were limiting of how many animals they have in their facility at once.
Yeah, Bruce.
Just a comment on that. I mean, guidance and if they were to put forth a plan on their part for enforcement type of thing, because the second that one of these guys open, it's going to generate a lot of complaints. So why them and not I? And basically, I could say, that they have a program. If they're violating their program, obviously we go back and revisit that. But it's something that saves the amount of phone calls that the board and myself are going to get. This person is open because they're following our guidelines or the program that they submitted that shows that they can be open in a safe manner. And Trish, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or.
I mean, we definitely, as a board, I mean, we can make some, we may be able to change some of this stuff. It is important, I think, for everyone to be on the same page and still trying to protect the public for sure. And, we don't want to bombard Bruce with, more calls and complaints about businesses being open because the Board of Health allowed them to be open. I mean, we've already had, you know, a few little mask issues, and I don't know that we had the greatest support on that. And I just don't know, like, who's going to back us up if there's an issue in the future with this.
Well, that's kind of the purpose of establishing this committee. As far as why are they open and why I'm not open, did you submit a plan? Did you meet the criteria that we asked for?
Yeah.
That's why I think it's important we do outreach to these businesses and let them know there may be an opportunity. I mean, let's face it, we're not opening any, you know, beauty salons anytime soon, because they're not going to be able to maintain their social distance. You know, restaurants, we're not going to say, okay, let's open up. As long as you wear gloves and a mask, you're good to go. Those aren't the businesses that we'll be targeting, obviously, on an immediate level.
Barber shops won't open.
Yeah,
What's that?
and go ahead. Sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, barber shops won't be opening.
No, exactly.
And,
So
and
if you get a barber shop saying, why is the pet groomer open, but I can't cut people's hair? I mean, is an obvious answer there. So, that's kind of,
But supposedly animals can catch the virus too.
Trish, that brings up a good point. What is the criteria that this pet groomer has provided to
Pardon?
prevent the spread of disease?
what was that?
What have they provided?
What do you mean?
Like what kind of services or?
No. What's their action plan if they want to be open?
Right. So that I think that's what is the reference of a business would have to provide the town with that safety plan, that business model. That would have to be vetted not only by this committee. It's much like what we do with any kind of business that comes to town. It gets circulated around to all the different entities. So the police would have to weigh in, fire would have to weigh in, Board of Health obviously would have to weigh in, selectmen, and just go through the entire community to check boxes to make sure that they are adhering to all the different things that are required. Let alone, I think the bare minimum standard is going to be the CDC guidance, and then in addition, the governor's guidance for safe social distancing. And then as it evolves, you know, it's probably going to be a living document that's evolving over time as we're learning more about, you know, the virus.
Jim?
Yep.
You know, for some of these businesses, PPE will extend beyond masks.
Yep.
I mean, some of them are going to need face shields. And picking up on something Trish just said, you know, down the road when the government applies, they may have to have masks face shields in addition to masks, because animals can carry it and spread it.
So,
We
Dennis
have
has
to look beyond the simple things.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some additional clarification, as Jim had said, from the governor later this week. He had said yesterday he was going to come out with some information later this week. So we may be busy next week. If he relaxes some of the criteria, we're going to have a lot to consider. If he holds firm on everything, then I think we're still going to be talking the gray area. But we may get some real guidance come Thursday. All indications are there's been a push from certain businesses to have some sort of modified, controlled relaxing of the order. So I'm thinking Thursday we're going to have some new information to consider. So when we meet next week, we will have some to work with.
Yeah, I mean, there was a Zoom meeting yesterday afternoon about 2:00 where we were talking to Representative Soder and our senator about that he can, you know, push to the governor's attention as to, you know, some of the things that we're looking for in order to try to generate that, you know, the capability of people going back to work. So I like Dennis said, I would look for that to come probably, if not this week, next week.
It's this weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be this week because the order's up May 4th. So he's coming out with something, I think tomorrow, or Thursday, I should say. Maybe sooner, but I think Thursday is the day.
Right, and to that point, we're talking about businesses coming forward and asking to be open. As Dennis mentioned, the floodgate might open up here that we want to walk cautiously through. So having something in place now, so that when that floodgate does open, we can, be actually a little more strict than what the governor lays out at first, and strategically open the doors for everyone to do it in a safe manner, as as we've been discussing at our early local action committee meeting. Mark, is there anything in addition you'd like to add from all of our emergency meetings?
We meet regularly and discuss a lot of issues that are important to the town. One thing I want to just mention is some of these businesses have been closed for months at a time. Just opening up a business and saying you can resume might not be the best idea. I think maybe creating a small task force, such as building, fire, board of health, to just do a quick inspection of these buildings prior to opening, just for safety reasons only. I mean, you're talking a 5-minute, 10-minute inspection that wouldn't harm anybody, just to make sure that the safety aspects are all looked at. So that's just my suggestion. If we start doing this, I think we should have a quick safety committee as far as an inspectional division aspect, so we could look at the buildings or businesses before they start opening up.
Yeah, with a checklist that we can go down and okay. Oh, you got to work on this.
Correct.
I think that's great. Then we'll follow up with a template or the questionnaire they give us. We go back, we confirm that everything is actually in place. It's one thing to have it in writing, another thing to verify.
Right.
This is great. This is excellent. I'm just jotting down my to-do list. That's all.
Jim, can I ask if Sue has any input?
I think that if every business gets one of those letters, one of those forms, and they fill it out, if they call and they question, why is this business open? Here's your form, fill it out, and if we deem that you can be open, then we consider it. One business complaining about another business, they need to show us that they're capable of, being safe. There are a lot of small businesses that can be, lawnmower shop. I mean, how many people are in there at the same time? You drop off your lawnmower, they fix it, and they pick it up. So little businesses like that, I think very possibly could be open, where you're not going to have 3-4 people there at the same time. Same thing with, a dog room. If it is one at a time, then that's a possibility. But again, like Dan said, no nail salons, no hair salons, barber shops. That's ridiculous. How can you be having your hair cut without somebody being close to you? I mean,
Yeah, and just to kind of, to Sue's point, I'm looking at businesses that aren't operating right now, but other businesses are operating, doing what they do. You may have a gentleman I know in Medway. He gets his lawnmower, all his small engine repaired by a guy who comes to his house, and that's his business. He goes to people's houses and he repairs the small engines, the generators, the snow blowers, the lawnmowers. He's still operating, yet you can't drop it off at a small engine repair place and have them work on it because they're closed. Again, I used the flowers example. So their core of their business is being conducted by other businesses, but they're not allowed to. And I think that's where, if I was one of those business owners, I'd be calling the Board of Health every day saying, why is this place operating? Why is this place operating? Why are they able to do it, but I can't? And I think it's legit.
You take that a little further. The town does have an ordinance. If people's lawns are unruly, I'm sending them a letter tell them that they got so many days to, cut the lawn and pick up the trash. So, I mean, I would like to think that the people,
I just threw that letter out, Bruce.
yeah, I don't want to have to be,
I just threw up
chasing
my lawn. I
people
couldn't see
because
it
the lawn's
anymore.
not cut.
But
I
no,
think that people should still, the first step is to send the request letter to the state asking if their business should be open. That should be their first step. I mean, because they may find it essential and come back and say, yeah, you can open. If that doesn't work, then certainly we should go through the steps. They should send us something and say how they're gonna, how would they open up their business that's gonna protect the public, protect the animals, whatever it may be, what their steps are to do that. And then we can review it. We can do that checklist, and everything's going to be done in steps. That's for sure.
So does it go to the state instead of the Board of Health, or instead of the town? Which do they do first?
So they should go to the state first, because
I think it should be opposite of that. I'm a firm believer in smaller government should be more powerful government. And if
I mean, the
we
state
say-
must be overwhelmed with
Well, not only that,
requests and-
the state's going to answer questions and answer, concerns with a broad brush. They're not going to look at the specifics when it comes to a municipality. I mean, I'm of the school of thought that I'd rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So if we allow a business to do, and the state comes, and the state comes down on us, all right, I guess we stepped out of our bounds. But and like Sue said, I don't know what the lag time is, but someone couldn't have put an appeal in, and they could lose 2 weeks that they could have been operating. And 2 weeks might mean a lot to a company that's been not operating for a month. So
It may not be a moot point, though. I think we loud and clear to Mike Soder and the senator as to some of the guidance we wanted the governor to take into advice when he comes out with this. I would expect a modified order, but I'd also expect a modified list as well. But I mean, time will tell by the end of the week, that's for sure.
Dan, I think
Yes.
one of the things we're talking about, maybe modified next week. And I just want to pick up on something you said. These are unique times. I disagree. I'd rather ask for permission than ask for forgiveness later. These are unique times. Forgiveness here could be impactful to someone coming down with this disease.
I'm sorry, I missed
I'd
that.
rather have an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. That's how I'd rather look at it.
Yeah. All right,
And again, I'm coming from a risk management standpoint.
Mark?
I believe that if someone sends in a request to the state may ask, I'm not sure if they will, but may ask, has the local government reviewed this and are they prepared to say yay or nay? So I kind of lean towards Dan, the way he's looking at it. Go through us and have have all the forms filled out. Make sure that we're saying that, yeah, we would allow you to open up. Now it's time for the state to review it. Send all those documents and say, hey, we've done our due diligence and said, we're looking at making sure they're wearing masks, making sure they're keeping social distancing, limiting the amount of people going in. And I think it would be a better review for the state at that point. That's just my opinion.
And not to mention that the state basically said that primary enforcement is going to be from a municipality standpoint. So it's not like we're going to have audits from DPH coming in, saying, oh, wait, this business shouldn't be open. Why are you open? And then they come down on the town because we allowed them to open because they met certain criteria that was outlined by the state. So,
Can I get a copy of that document that you have, Dan?
yeah, Jim, you're going to send it out, right, Jim, the AG?
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Thank you.
I mean, there's some merit to what Mark is saying, and it's very similar with some of the process that we have in place with DEP already. As the local board, a lot of times we're looking at a waiver request or a variance prior to it going to the state for approval. So, I mean, I recommend that they come and see us and get a letter or some sort of support from us before they file with the state. But I don't want to be the final say unless we get a little better direction from the state level.
Again, my bottom line, honestly, is I want to see the mom and pop shops survive. I don't want to base my entire shopping future on Amazon and Staples and Stop and Shop. I'd rather give these businesses a chance to survive if we can. I think, again, I've said it before, I think we're obligated to do so as a municipality to these these local shops that have been part of our community for quite some time. I don't see a Amazon Prime on the back of Little League shirts, but you do see small businesses here. You see the small businesses donating to the Bellingham Educational Foundation. I think as they've been a great partner to the community, we need to now, and as Bill said, unique times, we need to have some unique actions and say, this is our town and we're going to run it as we choose within certain parameters. That's where I'm going with this, especially for the short term. I mean, obviously, when we start getting additional guidance, and again, we're not opening up restaurants. We're not going to overstep our bounds that way. But if we're targeting certain industries that are conducting business in our town, but just not by our businesses in our town, I think, we owe it to them to look at that and give them an opportunity to provide and maintain their customer base during this crazy time.
Great. So I do have a list of action items to take away from today that I can provide the board over the next week. I'll provide an update to the committee of the governor, any changes that take place over the next week. I'll look at establishing a direct email for this committee. I'll put together a draft questionnaire that the whole committee could look at to see if that's something we want to move forward with to businesses. And I can put together, working with Mark and Bruce, on what a task force would look like for reopening when that time comes. Let's see. And then the only other item I had was that we did recently this week submit a grant to the Attorney General's office to assist small businesses. It's essentially direct funds that come from the state to the town. Then the town would distribute not a large pot of money, but it could be up to $50,000 that goes to the town that could be distributed out. So if anybody wants to reach out to our local reps and state senator and just kind of urge for that grant, I think that, it's not a large pot of money, but every little bit helps right now.
Jim, can I ask you to do a couple of other things? I know you're busy. Can we put like a timeline together with 3 options? You apply to us, you develop your forms or your questionnaires, we do an inspection. And then we have 3 options shooting off of that. One is going to the state first, going to the state after we've looked at everything. And the third, maybe no involvement of the state at all. So we're gonna have 3 options. You follow?
I like option 3.
I got it. That's why I put it in there.
Absolutely, not a problem, Bill.
All right. So since Bill's assigning homework, I'm going to assign some homework too. All right. Sue, could you kind of get a feel for what businesses think they could operate from the BBA, think they can operate within certain parameters, maintaining the proper CDC protocols as far as social distancing, limited contact, and just kind of get a feel for how many businesses we may look at. At the end of the day, we may get a handful, or it could be 30. You never know. Just to kind of get a feel.
With the BBA, we have a list of our members, but all the rest of the businesses in town, we don't have that list.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's that the town clerk has, where people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Town clerk probably has something too, but if nothing else, get the word of mouth going for the BBA.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. We can
someone who
put-
might not be a member may talk to another business owner that may have something, you know?
Yep, yep, we can definitely do that.
Awesome. And
Dave, can I
then,
pick up on something you just said? You thought we may not have a lot of businesses initially coming to us. What do we do if this information's public?
Mhm.
When we have restaurants approach us? So like
beyond our purview.
barbershops, we don't want to get weighed down in that right now. Is there any type of document put
So
out there
the
that
short
sort
term
of shrinks the base of businesses that
the
should,
short term answer is going to be is if you know, a restaurant, it's going to be beyond our purview because they're
On the
going to
prohibited list, right?
their business is going to establish more than a group of 10 people, and half of them
I
may.
understand that. But
So
they still may come to us.
yeah, and there's our answer. We're not equipped to
Okay.
come to it yet. That kind of goes with the next flow. I mean, like I said, I like to see us have kind of short-term immediate goals, and then kind of intermediate goals that when the restrictions do start getting lifted, do we want to look at restaurants? You know, if the state says they can operate at 50% capacity, well, we may say, you know what, we'd be more comfortable at 30% capacity for the time being.
Mhm.
We'll kind of look at what we're looking at for the intermediate goals as well, once the state does start releasing some of the protocol standards. And then long term, you know, what's business going to be like going forward? You know, I hate the term because I hear it too much, but, you know, there's going to be a lot of new normals. And like it or not, you know, those businesses, we're going to have a grip on those. And maybe that goes towards inspectional services and Board of Health as far as that goes. But so that's why I'm kind of looking at a three-phased type of situation. But, you know, you're right, as far as businesses that come forward and say, we'd like to operate, and we'll say, well, okay, how are you going to maintain not having a group of 10 people? Well, you know, we thought we could keep them 6 feet apart, but there'll be 15 people. Sorry, we're not making that recommendation. You know,
So then what will happen if 15 people go into the store? I mean, into the restaurant, we said 10. Who's
as far
gonna enforce them to leave? Is it gonna be the Board of Health or is it gonna be the
in the
police?
short term,
department?
right now,
Nobody's going.
if a restaurant comes to this board and says, we'd like to operate, here's how we're gonna do so, I'm gonna say, sorry, we're not ready to offer this to restaurants because there's too many, you know, facets of things that can go wrong that we can't have a firm grip on, and they can't have a firm grip on. Personally, when it does come time that restaurants may open, I think we do limit the capacity. I think we make it reservation only, so you don't have people in a waiting area. You know, I think those are the steps, and again, that's more of an intermediate thing that we would limit. So you can only have, you know, let's say the restaurant has a, you know, 50, or let's say 100 capacity because my math isn't that good. So now we limit them to 30%. They're only going to have 30 customers sitting and eating, spaced out, and nobody waiting. Because if people show up waiting, they'll have to tell them, go sit in your car until your reservation is up. You know, something like that. But again, that's a little further down the line.
It is. I agree, but I'm just wondering like who will have to do the enforcement. That's all.
We'll have to figure that
Like
out.
a thought process on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's how it is now for, you know, Stop and Shop. And it may be restaurants, it may be the same thing. If you have someone coming in and they say, we don't have an open reservation for you, we can't serve you, we're going to have to make sure that they know that they're going to have that right of refusal, and we'll take it from there.
I have a question on, so I ran into something yesterday where if we can't go into a business to pick up something, but yet there was a restaurant that let you go in to pick up your takeout. So, you know, again, a situation where a dog groomer and you're dropping off your dog and you can't go in, but how can a restaurant let you go in to pick up your order?
Because restaurants are deemed essential, and they're maintaining the essential services protocols that were outlined in the order. Most of them will have the screens now.
Yeah.
Most of them, they're wearing their proper PPE. You know, so again, they have their list of which they need to operate by, and as long as they're doing it, they're compliant.
Mhm.
One last comment. We've talked a lot about small businesses and the businesses that we're all familiar with in town. At some point, the movie theaters will come to us and want to open. They're opening movie theaters in other parts of the country. We got to look at, national brand companies like the movie theater, and how do we deal with that as well?
I'll be honest, when we're talking about movie theaters and larger restaurants, that's going to be outside the purview of what I think this committee is for.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. I think we're going to have to wait to see what CDC and Governor Baker do on that, because that's going to be really difficult unless they were to block out rows of seats and then it's just too close. That's going to be a tough one.
I'm not a proponent of it, but
Yeah.
if people see things in the news, that may drive a lot of requests.
Yeah, and again, they might try to pull the, once they're finished with their renovations, well, we're technically a food place because we serve food and alcohol now, so can't we open? And my answer is going to be like, listen, I think this committee should be working within the gray areas that aren't strictly outlined as yes or no, and making a decision based on the information and plans presented to us. When it comes to the movie theaters, when it comes to these bigger businesses, it's usually going to be clearly defined somewhere.
Okay.
Mark?
Dean, if I may, thank you. But just to answer, touch upon Trish when she said who's gonna enforce this, it has to be how we enforce things now. If it's a fire code, the fire department will enforce it. If it's a building code issue, the building code will enforce it. And if it's a health issue, the Board of Health will enforce it. So it's the same as we operate now. When a complaint comes in, we filter it and send it to the right person. So I guess to answer your question, that's how we'll enforce things.
Yeah, and
So the
sometimes
thing
it's
is, though, is if you set the limit and more people go in and they refuse to leave, so it's a Board of Health issue because we said you can only go, only 10 people could go in, but 15 forced 5 extra people forced their way in there. It's actually considered like trespassing. So do the cops get involved at that point?
Yeah, well, the building department sets the occupancy of every building in town. So it kind of leans on a building issue, not a Board of Health issue. And also occupancy falls under the fire code also. So if someone gets a complaint, that can be adjusted and handled accordingly.
You know
it
what I
might
mean?
be a
Like
joint effort.
with what's going on, it's really kind of, I don't know, making a lot of people angry is what I'm saying. So if they want to go in and they feel like they're entitled to go in and they force their way in, us Board of Health people can't go in there and deal with an angry person that's kind of out of our league. We don't have a gun. We can't really
That would
enforce.
be
We have nobody has a fear of us.
Yeah, no, that would be a legal enforcement issue, I think.
Correct.
Unless they knowingly allow more people in than they're allowed to, then it's we gave you an opportunity to operate under these parameters, you couldn't do it, now we're shutting you down.
I didn't want to bring this up, but this is an example of something that happened yesterday. So, the Board of Health enforced the masks. We made it mandatory to protect everybody, help protect yourself, protect people out there. And someone went into Staples yesterday and the manager there told them that they needed to leave because they didn't have a mask. The person refused and went into the store anyway. So she offered him a mask because she had one. He refused to wear the mask. So she called the police because he wouldn't leave. And the police told her to call the Board of Health. That's an example. I mean, didn't want to bring it up, but that's an example of something that we're dealing with. So if this guy gets angry and the Board of Health goes down there.
See, I
think they should go without a police escort.
But unfortunately, I think that's the exception. You're going to have a handful of people out there that are just jerks, you know? I mean, it was one instance where it occurred, you know, I don't know what the specific situation with the police was yesterday. I know they're tied up with a lot of other things. I think most people are going to comply, just like with the masks. I know Sunday, I was out everywhere shopping, and I didn't see a single person. And the person I was with said they saw one that wasn't wearing a mask. So I think people are going to comply. There's always going to be those handful of people that just are malcontents. So we're going to have to deal with how we work on that. I don't think we can have Bruce enforcing masks, enforcing numbers of people in all these restaurants, or your board. I think it's unrealistic to think you're going to be running all over the town doing that. So it's something we'll have to talk about, but I think we're just going to know that there are going to be a handful of people out there, just like there are people violating those senior hours at Market Basket. They say they've got an immune deficiency, and in fact, there's nothing wrong with them. There's always going to be.
Well, we don't know about that. We can't even get into details with those people. So that's the honor system.
The other thing though, with that example, Trish, I think it was brought up yesterday at the LEPC, and I think it was more of the store manager needs to kind of communicate to the police dispatch that this isn't somebody not wearing a mask. This is somebody being unruly. This is why we're calling the police.
Well, that's what she said, that he was trespassing. You told him to leave and he wouldn't leave.
If I could jump in quick, Deanna and Trish, I had quite a lengthy conversation with the chief regarding that, and he's going to make his dispatchers, ask more questions when the call comes in, so they know how to respond. I talked to the store manager after my conversation with Chief Daigle, and that if a store person does call, they need to portray the issue more clearly so that we get the proper response. But it's a very difficult situation. I don't want to respond to somebody who's very irate. I mean, I can make suggestions and say, this is what the policy is. This is what we're asking you to do. And you have to respect the store's position on that. I mean, but other than that, I'm not about to arrest somebody.
I was just giving this example of what we may see when we start opening up businesses, and we need to make sure that we know who's going to be handling, the people who are trespassing or the angry people. So Board of Health, again, can only do so much.
Yeah, I think that's when we bring the police chief in and we have those conversations. It's a good point. It's something we need to discuss. And even for our 9 o'clock meeting tomorrow, Bruce, it's something we can talk to the chief about.
Yeah. My suggestion is that task force that Mark was talking about, Mark, myself, the building inspector, also include a police officer. It doesn't necessarily have to be Chief Daigle, but one of the lieutenants or sergeants, so that that can be brought back into their briefing, so that they're aware of what we're trying to achieve and what to look out for.
That's a great idea.
I might have said this before. I apologize. One last comment. I want to pick up on something Dan said. Any documents that we have and any questionnaires that we have should have something in a bold box indicating that if you are given permission to open and you violate the criteria you presented, you'll be shut down.
I think
Questionnaire that has to be, out front right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. So. All right. We get a gist for what we're looking at, everyone?
Yep.
Jim, you got a lot of homework. Sue, you got some homework. I think the rest of us maybe taking a few minutes to look at what kind of criteria we want businesses to maintain. I mean, I know we have that template of essential services and how to operate. But if there's anything even locally specific that we're looking at, to do, and kind of get that questionnaire going. We'll get the email established. So if people do have questions, whether or not they should even apply for a waiver, if you will, they have a way to communicate this committee, and we'll go forward from there.
Could I get a copy of that form that they need to fill out if they want?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna put together. We'll probably have that if we meet next Tuesday. Have that, or hopefully we'll have it distributed to everybody before then.
Okay.
But like I said, everyone kind of, I'm gonna put Jim on the spot. Any ideas you have, send to Jim, email to Jim, and he can kind of put the questionnaire together.
Yep,
And then
no problem.
send it to us for review, and then if
The
we want
beauty
to
of
add.
being the chairman.
Hey,
And then if
Dan,
there's-
Dan, when you're finished, I want to change the subject slightly, but I had a lengthy conversation with Peter Morano, and when we're ready, before we close, I just wanted to, touch on that.
I'm ready to close. Anyone else?
Second. Oh, no, I can't. I
I'm
can't.
all set.
All
I'm
right,
all set.
go ahead,
But,
Bruce.
we're looking at the senior graduation here, and I talked to Peter, and we're trying to come up with some way that we can recognize the staff. I mean, it's their day. They need to be recognized by family and their peers. How we can safely have a graduation over at the football field at the high school. So, I mean, if you guys could start putting your heads around that a little bit, we do have a little bit of time, but not too much time. But I want to, have that well planned out. Actually asked Peter to join our Board of Health meeting tonight, and, comment on that too, so we can, get the board's involvement on that too. But, that's their big day, and we need to recognize that somehow. And I hate to see them lose out on that as students. I remember my graduation, and I'll never forget it. It's something we want to look at and provide for them somehow. So let's come up with some plan and be able to pull that off.
Bruce, I have an answer for you on that. United States Air Force Academy conducted their graduation 2 weeks ago. Entirely different than it has before. You may want to reach out to someone to see if we can find out what their criteria was for their graduation. But they did have it. I don't know if they had parents in the stands, but the graduating seniors did graduate in the football stadium, and it looked entirely different than any other graduation at the Air Force Academy in the past.
Yeah, all right. Why don't we table that and get Peter's input for the Board of Health tonight, and we'll kind of take a look at it. I'm not sure if it's obviously something that will come before our committee, but the more minds that can be melded together, the more different opinions we can have. The better ideas we can come up with. So I think, something like that. And I know, Bruce, you had said that Peter was looking at maybe doing like a group of 10 or 15 kids at a time, walk across the stage, grab their own diploma, go take a picture with their parents or their family. So I think there's definitely ideas out there, but Bruce, you have the weight of the world on you and the rest of the Board of Health. So let Peter make some decisions for once, huh?
Okay, thank you.
All right, I will entertain a motion to close.
All right, I second that.
All right, first by Mrs. McNulty, second by Mrs. Leclerc. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0. Thank you, folks.
Have a good day.
Thank you all.